health? Is your maid trying to manage your father's or your mother's dementia? With us today to discuss this is Reverend Father Dr. Emmanuel Ihemedo, PhD. Father Emmanuel Ihemedo is a priest and a parish priest, but also a licensed therapist and counseling psychologist in the United States. We have invited Father Emmanuel Ihemedo to discuss this issue with us. One, because of his professional experience. Two, because of his first-hand experience with managing aging parents. And I will allow him to now introduce himself to us, and then we'll take it from there. Father Emmanuel, you're welcome to our healthcare awareness series program for the month of June. You're welcome, Father Emmanuel.
Thank you. Thank you, Father Goswell. Thank you for inviting me to this forum to speak about a topic that is particularly personal to me because of my mother. So, like Father mentioned, my name is Father Emmanuel Ihemedu. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Connecticut. I'm also, my PhD is in counseling psychology. And I am the founder and the clinical director of my practice. Is called Streams of Hope Counseling. Basically, what we do is we try to integrate evidence-based mental health care with faith, with compassion, with hope. And, I'm a son of a mother who just turned 92, but she's living with dementia. And up until the end of May, I was teaching at University of St. Joe's as an assistant professor, teaching and mentoring future, mental health care professionals. So that's a little bit about it. I'm from Imo State now.
Thank you, Father Emmanuel. We are very lucky, and I would say even blessed to have somebody like you to talk to our viewers, our fans, our listeners, and our people from across the world on this issue of dementia and our aging population. And I'm sure that in the course of this conversation, all of us will come to understand what this is and how this can impact our lives in the family, and but especially what we can do to manage this. Something that many people now think is becoming a common disease, maybe in Nigeria, as common as malaria.
Mhm.
I can see Doris, the program officer at CSAAE Healthcare Access Center. Doris, would you please introduce yourself to us? You're muted. I think you can unmute.
Okay, Father. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Father. My name is Kano Doris, and I'm the program officer at CSAAE Healthcare Access Center, C Health, and I'm also a geriatric caregiver.
Okay, I think you're having some background noise. Please try and control that.
Okay, Father.
Maybe you can mute when you're not speaking because the background noise is probably coming from your fan or something. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We now turn over to Father Emmanuel. Father Emmanuel, you are a licensed psychologist. Could you tell us a little bit about dementia? What is it about? And how widespread has it become nowadays?
When we speak about dementia, we have to keep in mind that dementia is not really a normal part of aging, right? So um, it's a condition that affects the brain, right? And gradually what it does is that it damages our memory, it damages our ability to think, it damages our ability to judge, even our ability to carry out everyday activities. So for the gospel, think about this. As we grow older, and I know this may have happened to you, as it has happened to me. So it's normal for you to forget where you left your car keys, right? How often have you gone into a room and you say, like, why did I come into this room? What am I looking for? And then you forget completely. But eventually, later you remember, right? So, but with dementia, the person may forget the names of their own children. For example, sometimes I've come home and walk into my mom's room. She won't even remember me. She won't remember my name. She won't remember the name of my brother, Pascal. You know, with dementia, the person may get confused. With dementia, the person may not remember familiar places. Um, with dementia, the person may repeat the same question over and over and over. So it can happen, for example, I will come in and my mom says, "Oh, you came home. When did you arrive?" And I said, "Mama, oh, I just got here." Within 5 minutes, she has asked me that question again and again, So, and sometimes they may forget how to perform simple tasks. Sometimes I joke, I say to my siblings that my mother's brain is like Nigerian MTN, that it comes and it goes. The network comes and the network goes. So, 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 so I say to people that old age make us slower, but dementia changes the way the brain works. Okay. Another way you can look at it is, so if you look at, sometimes people ask me, Father, what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? Okay. So, and I said to them that dementia is like the umbrella name,
Okay.
but Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia.
Okay.
So think about it like fruits. So you have a fruit. Okay. So you can say that Alzheimer's is an orange. But of course, we have different types of fruits.
Yeah.
So Alzheimer's is an orange. An orange, we know, is a part of a fruit. Okay. So not all oranges equal dementia. Does that make sense? So you have a fruit is an umbrella name, but here you have dementia. You have dementia that are caused by Alzheimer's. You have dementia that are caused by stroke. You have dementia that are caused by like Parkinson's disease. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the simplest way of for me to explain it to a layman. Okay,
Okay.
so dementia is the umbrella name, but under dementia, you have Alzheimer's and you have different things that causes dementia.
Thank you so much, Father Emmanuel. That's a very good explanation, and one way to make our viewers understand very clearly, because the word dementia is becoming very common, and I think people are also seeking for understanding and clarification
Mhm.
from people who have the competence. So thank you so much. But I'm going to ask you again, how common is dementia, or probably the Alzheimer's, which one is the one you're saying is the most commonest? How prevalent is it nowadays? At what time in people's life that one may start experiencing this? And do you have the demography of Alzheimer's or dementia? What parts of the world seem to have more of this? What circumstances may be contributing to this? I mean, in your practice as a clinical psychologist, I'm sure you must have done a lot of work around here, and of course, you're a researcher too, as a scholar and an academic, so you can, if you have some, I mean, general, ideas, you can give us about how widespread this may be and when it begins, what causes it, and all that stuff.
Um, Alzheimer's, as I mentioned, is the commonest, type of it. So the reason we say is the commonest is because it contributes like the 60 to 70% of it. Okay. Um, I haven't done, I am not a medical doctor in this area because you have some the MDs who can tell you more about that. But I can tell you from my own little work, I see more of patients who are dealing with depression, with anxiety, with PTSD, with my exposure to dementia has to do with my mother, who has dementia currently, because I have never really faced anything like this. Um, so it triggered my interest in trying to know what actually is going on. But worldwide, more than 55 million people are living with dementia. Okay. And I do believe that nearly 10 million new cases we have, they are diagnosed every single year. Okay. That's how common it is. That's how common it is. But because we come from this part of the world where we don't have a lot of knowledge about it, so when we see it in our parents, um, because of the stigma that it carries, nobody wants their mom to be confused in public. Nobody wants to, people in the village to start speaking. And it's like madness is going on in that family, because we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the understanding, we don't have the exposure, right? So what happens is that you can 100% really talk about statistics in our own side of the country because people are not speaking about this publicly. People are afraid to talk about it. I can tell you vividly, I remember one day my sister took my mother to church, okay, when this disease started progressing. You know how they invite people in church to come and talk and give money. So my sister gave money and then said, Mama, come and greet the people. So
Hello, hello.
I'm, I'm telling you. So I'm watching this. I wasn't in church, but I saw the video. It was posted on social media. My sister sent a clip of it to me and then posted it. My brother was livid, you know. So his position was, why did you want everybody now to know that mama doesn't have it all together?
Yeah,
So I'm telling you from my own family personal experience, people still have this, it carries this stigma. People don't want to talk about it. So
exactly.
it makes it very, very difficult for you to get the statistic that you're looking for. But worldwide, almost every year you have 10 million people who are diagnosed with dementia.
Well,
So it's very, very common.
thank you so much, Father Ihemedo, for that clarity. Doris, you are a professional healthcare giver, and I'm sure you encounter, you know, aging people that are struggling with dementia. How common is this? How common is this among, um, the geriatric patients that you care for?
All right. Thank you for that. Um, Being a geriatric caregiver who has been into caregiving for
I think
a very
there is
long
a background noise where you are. There must be something, either a fan or some kind of noise. There's some background noise.
slow down.
Close your windows. If your windows are open, you can close them.
Is that okay now?
Not okay, but continue.
Okay. Just like I was saying, being a geriatric caregiver and being into this journey for a period of time, right? I would say just a few number of them actually speak up because dementia, like Father mentioned, carries a lot of stigma, and a lot of people actually do not want to talk about it. So, but then being a caregiver that I am, I've been able to encounter a few of my patients who are living with dementia, and I have to, of course, care for them as that has to be my job. So I would say maybe 6%, 6 out of 10 are actually living with this health condition of dementia.
That's in Nigeria, right?
Yes, that's in Nigeria. And of course, we know that caring for people, especially the aged people, caring for them is actually not easy. How much more caring for an aging parent that have dementia? And of course, dementia is a cognitive decline that has to do with the memory, the thinking, the communication, and of course, the behavioral changes of an individual, right? It's a
Okay.
condition that
Yeah.
entirely changes the way they understand the world. So
Okay.
each day comes differently in caring for them, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Father Ihemedo,
Yes.
at what age does dementia or Alzheimer generally start stepping into people's life? I mean, for those who eventually will get it, when are we supposed to start expecting it?
Well, I know that often you expect it in people who are aging, say 60 and above.
Yeah.
But there are some cases where somebody earlier than that might, experience that. Um, but I want to just going back to what we're talking about in Nigeria, our situation. I just want to say to your viewers and people who might have family members, that just say to them that it's not something that they should feel ashamed of. Many families are walking this journey, and the earlier it is recognized, the better we can plan for safe, we can plan for compassionate and dignified care. So I want to just put that out there first, because I want also one of the things I plan to do in this in my time, which is also to demystify, and destigmatize, this the experience of families having dementia. So,
Okay.
but you can say about 1 in 20 adults in our place, 60 and above probably will have dementia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I think I'm very happy about the fact that you are taking up the challenge to try to destigmatize this. And I was going to go into that because you have mentioned it. And Doris, who is, dealing one-on-one with aging parents that have dementia, has also mentioned that, which is a very big issue. It doesn't seem to be a stigma in the Western world.
Mm.
That some of us are, but we're going to get to that and we're going to talk about that. Probably this is not going to be the last conversation on this because I know that years ago, there was a woman in my community that had dementia. I was not very impressed with the way that she was treated. And they were saying that she had a banje or mommy water or something like that. And sometimes the young people used to flog her and beat her. Sometimes when they give her food, she would take the food to the farm. She was a farmer, so she probably would go back to the farm and hide the food in the farm and come back. So I was actually the person that told the family that the woman was suffering with dementia because that time I was the chaplain at Catholic Charities and they had an old people's home in that facility. So I had already met with people who had dementia. This was like about probably 8 to 9 years ago. So I was actually the person that, talked to the community and talked to everybody that what the woman was dealing with was dementia, not madness or cultic, spiritual possession and all that stuff. So that's really something that, we need to work more and talk more about so that our people can have a change of mindset about it. Because once we keep understanding and viewing dementia from this dimension, then providing care becomes very difficult. And that takes me to the next question that I have for you. Now, from your own personal experience, what is it? What are the challenges of caring for people that have dementia? At the beginning of your conversation, you try to talk a little bit about what they do, I mean, what the effects, what the consequences are. So this is the time to tell us a little bit more, at least from your own personal experience. Um, what are the painful parts? What are the difficulties? What are the challenges? What do they do that pose challenges to the patients and to the family members? I know you mentioned your mother maybe forgetting something, asking you questions, um, something within a second,
Mhm.
or just losing it. So I don't know whether they call them symptoms, signs or symptoms of dementia, or whether they call them the consequences of dementia. But how does it impact, how does dementia or Alzheimer impact the person that has gotten that is dealing with that? And how would that impact those who take care of this person?
So when you talk about dementia, just keep in mind that it is much more than memory loss. Okay, it's bigger than memory loss. Um, the person with dementia, for example, in the case of my mother, can wander out of the house. Okay, the person can just take off. Okay, that person can forget to eat. Okay, the person can refuse medication. Okay, the person can become frightened. Um, the person can confuse the caregiver or mistake the caregiver for a stranger. Okay. So I'll give you an example. My mother, there was a time she would always say she may have her episode that 2 or 3 days she won't sleep. Morning, afternoon, night, morning, 3 consecutive days. And
Hmm.
during those days, she can have auditory hallucination because her short-term memories are gone. She only remembers something that happened when she was young, maybe Mwabiagijedi when she was still coming for her marriage. Okay. She would tell my sister, I want to go home. I cannot leave my husband alone. So, and during those days, if you're taking care of her, if she's awake, you're awake. You cannot leave her. She can be a danger to herself. She can fall. She can leave the house and you will not be able to be able to know where she has gone. So now, if you are the one taking care of her, if you don't know that these are common behaviors or symptoms associated with this disease, you may get frustrated. Okay. You may actually shout at the person. You may find yourself raising your voice. You may even want to use force to get them to comply. You know, she's not eating. You may force them, use force to get them to take a bath. Okay. So you may even simply not recognize when something is wrong if you don't know. So that's why sometimes when we are thinking about taking care of our mother, in our own case, we're very privileged because my sister Rose is a retired nurse. She was a nurse educator. So my mother is living with her. But we have a lady who comes to take care of her mother. She comes Monday through Saturday, but she's under the supervision of my sister Rose. So my sister knows when my mom is about to have that episode, when she starts having that auditory hallucination, when she starts seeing our father, when she starts talking about her own parents. We have an idea that something is going to happen. So um, caring for someone with dementia requires knowledge and patience. So if you don't know these things, you may try to use force. Emotional harm is as painful as physical harm, you know, because what may happen here when you shout and when you are impatient, it can increase fear or anxiety in the patient.
Okay.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so something caught my attention. You said to care for dementia patients, it requires knowledge, but it
Mhm.
requires also patience if you don't know.
Yeah,
Um, are you talking about natural knowledge or special kind of knowledge to care for these people?
you need to. Okay, good intentions are important, but they are not enough.
Okay.
Okay, you have good intention. You can do harm, even though you're well-meaning.
Okay.
So that's why it is important to train the person. Have a trained person to take care of your mother, to take care of your father. Don't leave them into the hands of a family member or somebody you know that they are loving, they are caring, yes, but they don't know these things. They may get frustrated. I mean, they may mean well. Imagine being with somebody for 3 days, the person is not able to sleep, and you don't know what the heck is going on with them.
Hmm.
But if
Yeah.
you train them, for example, my sister Rose, with this individual who is this young lady who is taking care of her mother, she comes. She sleeps on the same bed with my mother. She has her own room, but she loves to be on the same bed with my mother. She has accepted my mother as if my mother were her grandmother. Okay. You can't come into the room where my mother is and perceive a smell, a urine smell or odor, nothing. First thing in the morning, she bathes my mother. They have developed this bond because my sister has taught her how to take care of our mother, signs to pay attention to, not to argue with her. Don't be argumentative with her. Don't force her to eat. Don't force her to bed. So she's been, even though she didn't go to a full nursing school, but she has a nurse who trained her, gave her, the training. She acquired those skills to be able to do this. I mean, we had somebody before when my mom was staying in the village, and every now and then she would get frustrated with our parents.
Wow.
She would yell at them.
Oh,
She doesn't want to eat. My dad that time would have an accident, even though my father wasn't, his cognitive abilities were completely great until he passed. But let's say an elderly person has an accident, maybe they may be having a running stomach or something before they made it to the toilet. They had an accident. This lady would be yelling and screaming and making my father feel small. So that's why it's important to have someone who is trained.
hmm.
You don't just want to have anybody. You may do more harm than good.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. Very interesting. And I'll turn to Doris, who is a professional caregiver. And I would want to know from you, Doris, how much training um, you get, or you got, sorry, when you were, being trained as a professional caregiver. How much training you got in the area of taking care of dementia or taking care of aging people that have Alzheimer? Were you trained on how to do this? And if yes, also share with us your work experiences and why you think that the training has been very helpful to you in the work that you do.
Thank you very much, sir. I being a geriatric caregiver and who, of course, takes care of the aged people with dementia or people living with dementia has it's been a tough one. It's actually a tough one taking care of them, right? And it's something that has really taught me a lot because
Were you trained in school to take care of them?
yes, I actually went for training for that to properly care for aged people,
Not
those
just
living
aged
with.
people, but was there a part of your program that covered taking care of people with dementia?
Of course, yes, yes, I was trained in that line.
Tell us a
Yes,
little bit, tell us a little bit about that training while you were in school.
okay. Normally, during my training, we were taught to be patient with people living with dementia. You have to be patient. You have to be have empathy, and of course, you have to be very consistent in whatever you do with them. Right now, when I mean being consistent means you don't have to come up one day and change their routine, their daily activity routine. If you're following one time to prepare their medication, to do their meals, or bathe them, and also wake them up and also remind them bedtime. You have to be very consistent with that time so they become familiar with that particular time, right? You don't just wake up, and even if there's a need for you to change them, maybe some of them actually be unavoidable. It is okay for you as a caregiver caring for this patient to um, inform them in advance, right? It makes them feel safe when their time is predictable actually. So we were taught to do that, and we're also taught to ensure that we keep the environment safe, whereby you have to take away harmful equipment or items that could, get them injured. Ensure that the family members understand the importance of grab bars in bathrooms for these individuals, right? And also, we were taught about effective communication, how to speak to them calmly, not argue with them. Rather, you reassure them. They just want to get that reassurance and redirection. Even when they start agitating, of course, this you as a caregiver can actually look out for these triggers that gets them agitated. It could be hunger, it could be fatigue or something. Just try to redirect their attention to other activities that could take their mind away from that. So these were part of the skills that I was taught during my training as a caregiver.
That's really fantastic. Sometimes you guys talk about this patience as if it's something that you will learn, like the way you play football, you learn how to play football. Uh, Patience, is that something you learn in school or something that someone who wants to be a caregiver has? Is that a natural aptitude or is that something that you have to cultivate or learn? Because I can be patient today, but tomorrow I can get upset. So, so how do you go about that? What are the strategies, or what systems you have in place to? Because from what Father Emmanuel has described, they are not really patient. These people can be very annoying. And honestly, they can be very annoying because, I mean, imagine somebody doing some of these things that Father Emmanuel has explained here. So
Well, it's not a work for everybody.
it's not a work for everybody.
It's not a work. And I know what she's saying is right. Consistency is important. Predictability is very important. So you want to be patient, right? And avoid arguments. So I guess it comes with the training you learn. You have to always remind yourself that you are the professional here. I am the professional. It happens even, I go to parish council sometimes and somebody says something that I want to chop their head off. Okay. But then I have to remind myself, okay, you are the professional here. You are the
Yeah,
professional. I have to say that to myself. So as long as you remember that this behavior is caused by the disease, you be able to separate the disease from the person. It helps to put things in perspective, you
well,
know.
fantastic. Thank you so much. Doris, I'll go back to you. I know you, in the course of your work, you have served quite a number of, aging people with dementia. Father Emmanuel has shared his experience with his grandmother. So can you share with us an experience with an elder that has dementia that you have taken care of, and what that experience looked like? What somebody who wants to become a caregiver should probably expect from a patient that has dementia.
First of all, you need to understand that these people do not do what they do deliberately. It's not because they want to do these things, right? It's a condition led to their behavior. That's one thing you need to have at the back of your mind as a caregiver who has been trained, or someone who wants to go into the line of caring for the aged people, right? So they do not do these things intentionally. So I would say one of my experiences, or one of the experience I've actually had so far, is the fact that I understand that these things are not the everything else that
You're having a network issue out there? You're having a network issue out there.
Yeah, Doris seems to be frozen. Okay, I
Yeah,
think
can you hear me now?
yeah, I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so you need to have that at the back of your mind when you want to go into caring for the aged people. Okay, because those little acts of kindness and maintaining that familiar routine that you do, and also
So that
with that.
you have the person that you cared for had a dementia. Just like Fadi Manuel, can you share a little bit of some of the of the challenges you face caring for that particular person? I mean, you don't have to
Okay,
give us the name of the person, just talk about some of the things that the person used to do that was very clear that you had dementia and the challenges you face and how you manage that for that.
okay. I would say having to have somebody ask you repeated question. You know, when somebody says, "Where are you going to?"
This person asking you repeated question.
Yes. Where are you going to? And you tell the person, oh, I want to get your food, or I want to do this. And the person asks you again, where are you going to? I mean, if you do not, or if you're not trained in that line to be patient with this client, you actually get upset. Or you have a patient that comes here to urinate,
Again, like
right?
I said, I'm asking you to share the experience of that particular patient.
Yes, that's what I'm actually doing.
All right.
I
So
have a patient who always urinates at a spot, and
mhm.
of course, you clean that up, and the person comes back there to urinate. So it's one of the things that you have to deal with, or I have to deal with as a caregiver. So because I am trained in that line to understand that these things are not deliberate acts, I learn to be patient with this person and just guide the person through it and not get upset. Of course, I also always avoid shouting at them, not having to argue with them. Rather, I just speak to them calmly and, you
Okay,
know,
so that's very fine. The reason why I'm asking you is because assuming somebody wants to be a caregiver, the person wants to hear your specific experiences, not general prescriptions. Father Emmanuel is a psychologist, so he can make general prescriptions, but he also is not I mean, he's not a professional. I mean, he's a caregiver in some sense, but I mean, not like we are trained. And because the mother has dementia, so he has some first-hand experience. So that's why because somebody might be considering to be a caregiver. So, sharing a specific experience is very important for that person to say, oh, maybe when I become a caregiver, my patient might be like your own patient. So we have Father Emmanuel to tell us more about the principles and things and everything. So, but Father Emmanuel, we go back to you and we're rounding up this conversation. What have you to tell people who have aging parents, especially people who cannot live with their parents when they are aging. And even if you can live with your parents when you are aging, if you are not a trained caregiver, it's probably going to be difficult for you to care for your parents, you know. In your own case, it looks like your sister being a nurse. And this med that has received some training for your sister, they are lifesavers. You know, you're privileged, as you have said. Uh, but not everybody has a nurse in their family. And even if we have nurses in our families, these nurses may not be sitting with our mothers and fathers. Um, so what is the solution? How do we go tackle this emerging illness that is almost becoming common? I mean, if we are diagnosing 10 million people every year, I wonder, you could imagine what it will look like in the next 20 years. You know, so how do we start preparing for this? What do you tell sons and daughters or family members who have aging people or who are hoping to be old? All of us are hoping to be old someday. So how do we start preparing for this? We start investing in training caregivers and manage these people. Those who have aging parents already, should they invest in caregivers as your family has done? Um,
Mhm.
what do you think we should do to provide proper care for these people as they as, as they
Um, well, I always believe that we have to take care of our parents, and if they're aging, we should make plans to make sure that they receive, what I call a dignified care. Dignified care. So initially, if you notice something, I would say get a proper medical diagnosis. Okay, get a proper medical diagnosis for your mom or for your dad. I would also encourage people learning about dementia as a family. Learn about it as a family, what is involved. And I wouldn't just dump it on one family member. Okay. Um, I would also hire and train trustworthy caregivers, not just one person. I would hire and I would make sure that the people I'm hiring, that they are trained and that they are trustworthy. Okay. Make sure that your house is safe, wherever you are keeping them. I wouldn't just leave my parents in the hands of just the caregiver. I will have supervision, right? I will pay attention to what is happening. I mean, like I mentioned to you in one of our conversations, in America, they have their retirement, accounts and the things that take care of them when they retire. Their 401k and so on and so forth. But we add our parents' 401k. You know, we add the, we add the, we add their retirement benefits. We can't just abandon them. So we have to make sure that we have proper plan, right? We want to stay involved as a family. You don't just say that you are in America, you are in the UK, you just send money, but you don't know what is happening on a day-to-day basis to know how your parent is being taken care of. Um, I would also support the caregiver because caregiver turnaround is real. And also caregiver burnout is real. So what do I mean by that? If you don't take care of the caregivers, they overflow. Your parent might be the one receiving that. Okay, so take care of the caregiver. Make sure that they're not burned out. So the way that I would do it is make sure it's not just one person. I will also start paying attention when it comes to safety issues. You know, uh, before you hire, check the background of the person. In our place now, in those days, if you want to marry somebody, you ask questions, right? Make sure the person is a good person, come from a good family, and so on and so forth. You want to make sure that this person who is taking care of your parent, is a good person. I would provide basic dementia training, as I said before. I would create a daily routine for them. I will keep emergency numbers available. If anything happens, call this person, call that person. So those are some of the things I would do. I will also make sure that my family and you watch out for unexplained bruises or injuries. Okay, so poor hygiene, weight loss or dehydration, missed medications, bed sores. So these are some of the signs that your parents is not being taken care of.
Yeah.
They give you a signal, uh-oh, what is going on here? So generally I would say to them, please take care of your loved ones, especially your mom, your dad, if they're aging. You are their retirement benefit. There is no other person who's going to do that. And you can bring a caregiver. No one can take care of your mother or your father better than the way you can.
Yeah.
No one can do that. And if you're not in-house, if you cannot do it by yourself, you hire people who can do it. You train them so that they do a good job. You supervise them. You monitor what is being done. Don't just leave everything onto them. So those are some of my advice, because I say these things from my own experience from here, my family experience. So initially, we had people taking care of our parents. They were living in our family house up until my father died. When my father died, I remember my aunt Felicia coming to me to say, no stranger will be able to take care of your mother the way you would. Don't leave your mom here. And we made a decision as a family and moved our mother to stay with my sister Rose. We still provided care, but she supervised, she monitored, So that's the way to do it.
Thank you, Father Emmanuel. You are in the United States, but your mother is in Nigeria. And, most people are in the same shoes that you are in. Because of the economy and insecurity and everything going on in our country, Nigeria, people are migrating to other parts of the world. In fact, migration has really broken our families in Nigeria. And it has become very difficult for people to stay with their parents. I mean, most people would like to take care of their mom and their dad, but how can you do that when you are in Malaysia and your mom is in Nigeria? How
Mhm.
can you do that when you are in India, chasing money, chasing greener pasture, running away from Boko Haram and all those, and your mom is in Nigeria? You can't take all of them with you at the same time. And even those who are in Nigeria, who are like in Lagos or in Abuja, waking up very early in the morning, going to work, chasing money. And don't forget that these sons and daughters now have their own children. Maybe you're better off because you're a priest, you don't have your wife and children. But if you probably had 7 children, with a wife,
Mhm.
probably you're from the
Thank
northern
God I don't have 7 children.
from another part of the country had 5 wives. So, dealing with the problems of your wives and your children will probably be too much to even allow you to then also take on the problems of your parents. But the good thing is that now you're talking about trained caregivers, which I think is something that here in America, people are taking care of. I know
Yes.
people in Maryland, but their children are in California, and they get trained caregivers, and they can go home and be confident
Mhm.
that caregiver is taking good care of the person. I mean, otherwise, if we can't trust caregivers, if we can't go home and sleep and close our eyes and sleep and say, somebody I'm paying is caring for my mother, I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, we all trust people with our lives. I mean, you're in Nigeria now, you visited Nigeria, but when you get into the airplane, you're entrusting your life into the hands of the pilot. you
Mhm.
know so you have to trust and believe that the pilot will fly the airplane safely. So I think that strengthening the caregiver profession or career or system has become very important, because at some point we just have to entrust our parents into the just like our parents, some of them also entrusted us into the care of nannies. Some of
Mhm.
our parents who were also working when we were little, they entrusted us into the care of nannies. Some mothers will just bring you to a nanny place or a nanny center and leave you there and go to work with the confidence that that nanny would take good care of you the way mommy would do until mommy comes back from work. So all I'm saying is that I think, and it's not getting Japa is not, it's not your med. Japa is not getting any better in Nigeria. I mean, I don't even know how many thousands of Nigerians leave the country every year, and it doesn't mean they're going to America. They might be going to Ghana, to Cotonou, to elsewhere, but they're looking for greener pastures. And I predict that families are going to be torn apart even more in the future, except something economically dramatically happens in Nigeria. So I think having trained caregivers have become very important. And I would like to talk to Doris here because Doris and her team are training caregivers in Imo State. And and how can people who find themselves in the shoes of Father Emmanuel, I mean, myself, I would say I'm lucky my parents are no longer there. I don't have to deal with this. But how can people who find themselves in the shoes of Father Emmanuel, go to bed every night confident that somebody is taking care of their parents? Can they reach out to you? Are you training qualified and trustworthy? Father Emmanuel said qualified and trustworthy. He underlined those two words. Are you training qualified and trustworthy caregivers who people outside of the country or who have moved apart from their parents because of work schedules and other life circumstances? Can they confidently come to you and say, give me somebody to take care of my mom? And what are you telling the public about the work you are doing? Because it has become very critical that we train professional caregivers and we use them to care for our aging parents. But are you training qualified and trustworthy caregivers? And how can people in the shoes of Fadi Manuel, who is in the United States, but the parents are in Imo State, and who really want to give their parents the best of care, how can they take advantage of the work that you guys are doing in our Doris?
Okay, thank you for that. Like I always tell people who come to us, right, that caring for aging parents or people living with dementia is much more than providing physical assistance to them. So at CSAAE Healthcare Access Center, what we do here is train professional caregivers who understands the ethic of caring for people, who are compassionate and who have patience and who have empathy in them in caring for these vulnerable individuals. So that is part of the job that we do. And of course, our caregiver, what we also, part of the things that we do is to help them. These patients, we help them maintain dignity. We also help them have a safety in their living, and also we also try as much as possible to help them live meaningful life and a very comfortable life. So these are part of the things that we do, or this is what our trained caregivers do for individuals at CSAAE Healthcare Access Center. C Health.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do you have any contact people who might be interested who are listening to us to reach out to talk to you about their needs?
Your audio is a little
Yes.
Mine? Okay. So do you
okay
have
now.
any contacts here, just in case people might want to have questions or reach out to understand more what you offer?
Yes, we do have a contact. They can reach us on our line 0704 7185, or they can also visit our head office at number 17 Ajoko Street, behind UBA Bank, Wedra Road, Owerri. Or they can check us on our website at chealth.csaaeinc.org.
Thank you so much. So we are coming to the end, or we have come to the end of this interview. But before we say goodbye, Fadi Manuel and Doris, I would like you to say your final words. I think we'll have to continue this conversation. I think we might want to even do something bigger. We might want to do something, bringing people together and educate them, because Fadi Manuel mentioned that it's just not the caregivers alone. The entire family would also have to get involved in caring for aging person. And I think he's right, because even if I hire a caregiver and I don't understand how dementia works, I might not just be believing the caregiver, or I might just think the caregiver is not doing his work, or I might not be able to provide supervision, to the caregiver, even though the caregiver is supposed to be a professional, even supposed to guide me regarding how I'm going to treat my parents. Um, but I think we may need to do something bigger, probably bringing people who have parents or elders in their families who are going through dementia to probably have some kind of conversation around this. We can do that in person or online or hybrid. And I think we'll probably have to bring Father Emmanuel back, and probably a few more professionals in the area to educate our people more about this disease, and just to make everybody get prepared. I wish people in my community knew about this years ago, when they really mistreated that woman that had dementia. So, and I think there are quite a number of people, communities in Nigeria, where people still see dementia as madness or spiritual possession or something abominable, So let's plan on doing something bigger around this. And like Father Manuel has said, he said he wants to spend the rest of his time educating people on this. So probably we're in good hands with him. So let's see how we can do more with him, and give what he wants to do more visibility. So Father Manuel, your final words to our viewers from across the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Father, for inviting me and for the opportunity to speak about this topic. Completely agree with you that there should be perhaps your organization should explore a bigger forum for like psycho-ed, for families. Because why it is important to get families involved is so they know what to expect. They know some of the changes that's going to happen over time. It also help them to grieve their parents, even though they are still alive, because there are some griefs that we don't talk about enough, that my mother who doesn't remember my name, even though sometimes she recognizes my presence, right? Sometimes she may remember their voice, but she doesn't remember my name. So, but if you don't know things, about these changes that come with this disease, it may hit you hard. So that's another aspect that you can talk about, the grief that is associated with someone having this for the whole family, teaching them some of the behavior to expect, so that they're like, why is mama behaving like this? Why is papa behaving like this? Why is they calling my grandfather's name, and so on and so forth. And when my mom, when she's having an episode, if she grabs your hand, you know, Kiliwi Nwachukwu will not be able to get you out of her hand.
Father Manuel, you're so funny.
No, no, no. I'm telling you, if my mom grabs your hand, Hillary Watchful will not be able to rescue you at that time. She's so strong. I don't know where that energy comes from. So, but anyway, I want to say to your viewers, if you have parents who are aging, who are dealing with dementia, memory loss, okay, love them, hug them. Don't be ashamed of them. They're your parents. What is happening to them is a disease that affects the brain. And by affecting the brain, it affects the ability to think, the ability to communicate, the ability to judge. So it's not something to be ashamed of. This is the time they need you to love them, to support them, to be there for them, and also to do whatever you need to do to provide them the care that they need. So from the organization of Father Goswill, you can get proper caregivers. As I mentioned, you need, not only trained, but also trustworthy. So yes, there are still some good people, trustworthy people who are trained, who can be able to help you if you're not around. They can do that for you. And I strongly recommend that you take advantage of that and make sure that your parent gets the proper care that they deserve, dignified care that they deserve. So I thank you again, Father, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Father Emmanuel. It has been a very interesting time, and we have learned a lot from you. Thank you so much for volunteering to do this and for sharing with us, especially the personal experiences caring for your mom. I always see you post things about your mom on Facebook, and I admire all that because it tells me that this guy really loves his mother, and I think that's the way to go. Caring for our mother. The Bible also wants us to take care of our parents. So you take pride in your parents. You're always home to care for them, and I want other people to emulate you. To show such love, especially those of us from Nigeria and Africa. Our parents really went extra miles to care for us. I don't think there's so much. We can't do too much for them. But seeing
Mhm.
them as nuisance, as burdens, and abandoning them in the village and walking away, when we could invest a little in caregivers and come home more often to see them, it's not doesn't sit right with me. But you are somebody that has over the years shown a lot of care for your mother, and I think it's something that we want other people to emulate. Keep it up, and we'll bring you back to this platform to talk more about this and to continue to encourage more people, and hopefully more people can toe the path you're toeing when it comes to caring for your mom. Doris, you have a 1 second to say a final word to our viewers from across the world.
Thank you very much, sir, for this privilege. Um, I want to say something. I was privileged to meet someone, a lady, during one of my outreach program who is dealing with a mom going through dementia. And one thing she said to me was, nurse, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. She confided in me and said that her mom behaves funny. She does this. She just wonders about, and they don't even know what. She comes and urinates. They clean it up and she comes back again to urinate. I just told her those are signs and symptoms of dementia. And I think I want to tell people it's better you speak up and not keep quiet, because early detention is key to solving that issue that your aging parents are facing. So, as much as you can as a family, because you can't even deal with all of the stress and emotional trauma, and of course, taking care of these people is draining sometimes. That's why I will encourage people out there to speak up and also to get caregivers who are trained, who understands these symptoms, and who can actually provide this specialized care for these vulnerable individuals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doris, and thank you everybody for being part of this program. We'll meet you again next time on the Sea Health Awareness Series, powered by the Sea Health um, Healthcare Access Center. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.